Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Grunibelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And in this podcast, Blake and I are going to give you all the best streamers and ad options for next week so you can start planning early. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, the home improvement master himself, Blake. How are we feeling tonight?
Home Improvement Master. I feel pretty good. I just got to say that intro, Nate. That nothing gets me jacked up the way you do an intro to a pod. I mean, I got goosebumps over here. It's unbelievable. The honey in your voice. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, I feel good, man. Well, that's actually a lie. I'm a little bit sick, so bear with me here. But I feel good about doing the pod. I'm excited. Yeah, it was a busy week. I was working pretty hard this week, and I couldn't make time for a pod, and I hate when that happens. So I'm happy to do this with you here, and I'm ready to get to biz. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right. I'm still recovering. I didn't play hockey. No beer league stories to recount tonight. My knee's still not 100%. Got it checked out. It's nothing crazy. Apparently, no ligaments or tendon problems. It's just some kind of bone bruise, and there's still swelling in there. So, taking it easy, trying to work it back to get back. The team needs me. They lost without me tonight. So the team needs me and my 0 points, but seven individual Corsi for. That's really what they're looking for from me every night. So
That's right. Just chucking pucks with the best of them.
exactly. All right, Blake. Enough talk about that. Let's get into it. Let's get into some newsies.
And here is the news. That was great banter, Nate. I really appreciate that. All right. We got to talk about Big Poppy. Oh, God, this is terrible. Austin Matthews. He looks like he's closing in on a return, but it doesn't seem like he himself said that he doesn't know if he'll be back to 100% this season. And that is not what you want to hear, is it, Nate? That was a really worrisome quote for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, for sure. It is and it isn't. Like, to me, that was almost like the conclusion I had come to. It felt like, right, was that this was not something that was going to be going away anytime soon. But also, like, yeah, you never want to hear the player be like, yeah, like, I'm going to be playing with this for the rest of the season and it's not going to get better. So that is a tough look. I'm like still pretty convinced that Matthews can play through this and play at a pretty high level when he's good. The question is, like, now that everybody knows, like, everybody saw the clip now where the Buffalo defenseman like cross-checked him and in a certain spot, and
We
that's
have
what
an
caused
idea.
it.
Yeah.
And like, you're lying to yourself if you think that other teams aren't going to try to cross-check him in the same spot from now on. Like, that's going to happen throughout the rest of the season. So the bigger concern for me is, like, does he miss more time? It's not like, can he play at a high level? Because I think he can. If he gets on the ice, he will play at a high level. I feel pretty confident about that. And even if he's like at 90% of his normal self, like, that's still better than 99% of the rest of the league. The question for me is, does he miss more time? Like, does he get another cross check randomly in some other game in February and now he misses another 10 days or 14 days or something like that? And that's really starting to hurt you. So that's the part that you have to be worried about. But yeah, I think there's like simultaneously selling and buying opportunities with Matthews, depending on your setup, depending on where you are in the standings, what you should or shouldn't be doing with Matthews. It is a really interesting situation to me. We'll see how it plays out, but I do think that there will be some money to be made on one side or the other of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it it's to me, this has load management written all over it. Like, and I am a Matthews owner in one spot, and to me, like, I just don't want the shenanigans. You know what I mean? Like, I think obviously we know the situation there in Toronto. Like, it's playoffs and playoff success or bust, right? Like maybe not a cup, but we need a couple rounds over there in Toronto, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure Matthews is good to go for the playoffs. So what does that look like? I think it looks like he might miss games. He might miss second half of back-to-backs. Like they might do that. So I don't know. To me, I think I've heard enough. Like I actually traded away Matthews in this one spot, and I feel pretty good about that. I didn't get close to the return that you should get for a player like Matthews, but to me, I'm getting peace of mind, and I'm a little bit lower in the standings in that league. So, I can't really be taking zeros with Matthews on the bench. So, anyways, it's an interesting thing. Obviously, we got to monitor it, but hopefully he gets back to full health because that's a player that's just really fun to watch, and he's the best goal scorer in the league, no question. So, anyways, let's move on over to Vancouver. We always do this. We always go Toronto, and then we go Vancouver because we can. All right. Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, sounds like they're going to join the Canucks on the road trip, and they're getting close to returning as per Coach Rick Tocchet. So that's great news. Canucks are spiraling out of control. Demko left last game with back spasms as well. They're right now they're getting shut out by the Nashville Predators. That wagon of a team, the Nashville Predators. So yeah, these guys can't get back soon enough. They do not have a replacement. No one does for Quinn Hughes. So hopefully they get back sooner rather than later. Let's move on. We got to talk about the Seattle Kraken. Release the Kraken. They've been released. I don't know what I'm saying here. Joey Decord, I lost it. Joey Decord yet to practice. So it's still Philip Grubauer's season. Is anybody stoked on Philip Grubauer right now? Nate, what are you stoked on Philip Grubauer?
I can affirm that I am not stoked about Philip Grubauer. I'm curious to see exactly how he's been doing. I feel like it's been like not absolutely horrific, but it hasn't been good either yet. So he's allowed 5 goals, 4 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals in his last 4 starts here.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not been great. He's got an .877 save percentage on the season.
Damn.
I think the Kraken want Joey Decord back as soon as he can be, but yeah, hasn't practiced yet, so it's going to be a minute.
Yep, for sure. I mean, Decord is the one of those two that is actually saving goals above expected, right? He's not doing that. And then if you look at the Kraken, just over the last month, like at 5-on-5, they're second worst in the league in Corsi against per 60. They're getting caved in on the regular, and Grubauer doesn't have his beautiful Oakley glasses on to give him that swag, and he's just getting pumped. So I don't know. I'm not interested. Anyways, we talked way too long on Philip Grubauer. We're going to move on. Valerie Nichushkin of the Colorado Avalanche is going to be out 7 to 10 days. Not too bad. Could be a lot worse. So that's fine. Jonathan Drouin, he's an interesting piece. I picked him up in one spot when he was on IR. Just added him right to my IR. And yeah, it's been pretty good. Early returns. Like one thing we know about Drouin is Bednar likes him. He puts him out there for 20 minutes a night. It's crazy. This guy was getting an insane amount of volume last year, and it looks like it's kind of happening again here this season so far. He's up on the top line, or at the top 6 at the very least, and he's on power play 1. So that's a nice spot to be. You get Drouin anywhere, Nate?
No, I don't have Drouin anywhere, but I think he's gonna be coming up again later in this, so we'll leave it there for now, but definitely a guy you're gonna be looking at, especially for next week.
Foreshadowing. Nate's just wetting everybody's whistle. All right. You can't wait to hear what we got to say about Jonathan Drouin, folks. Over to the Wild. Jared Spurgeon. Oh, God, not here, Jared, not now. He's out week to week. He was slew-footed by Dingus McGee, Zach LaRue, and he was out a cast and a crutches. It just stinks. It was a really dirty play, unnecessary. So Brock Faber, he's going to be power play 1 until further notice, I would think. I mean, they do have Declan Chisholm there, who maybe could moonlight there, but it's going to boost Faber's value. So yeah, if you got him, you're happy to have him. Justin Falk of the St. Louis Blues couldn't go tonight, which is Friday. He's out with an upper body injury. So that late night beauty, Cam Fowler, he's moving up in the rotation. He's not even a late night beauty. He might be like your second or third choice during the night. All right. So, he's not at the bar. He's got options, right? He's given his number out to a few people. He's on a few fantasy teams here and there. So we like that. But yeah, Cam Fowler's been a really nice surprise with the St. Louis Blues. And I think we forget Anaheim is terrible. And he's been on that team through all those terrible years. So I don't know. You put him on a team that's marginally better and, it makes a lot of sense that he's actually playing a little bit better and he's getting some minutes as well. So I think that's a nice piece. Should probably be added at this point, especially with Falk out. This guy's power play 1, and he's looking good. Let's keep going. Over to San Jose, Jake Wallman, the gritty. He skated on his own for the second straight day. Huzzah! He's probably going to get power play 1. I would think he'll get power play 1 back when he does return. They've got a 5-forward set going there right now. I'm never a big fan of that 5-forward set. I don't think I've ever seen it really work on a consistent level. So shout out to those coaches who just keep throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. This idea stinks. Let's agree on that, right, Nate?
All right.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. Yeah, sorry I cut you off before you had a good rebuttal there. Anyways, New York Rangers, Igor Shesterkin. He's going to be out till at least January 7th. That's fine, I guess. Jonathan Quick is an ad, even though the Rangers are hot garbage, right? They stink, but he's going to get some volume, right? So I think Quick is a good ad until Shesty comes back. Makes sense to me. Sticking with tendies, spicy tendies. The wedgie, Scott Wedgwood. Is his name Scott? I feel like I'm messing that up.
Yes.
Okay, good. He's out week to week. I just put Wedgwood, and then I'm like, what's the man's name? Sean Wedgwood is going to be out week to week. After he took kind of he got run over there. A player got pushed into him, and it was sort of a weird play there. So, he's out week to week, and I read that the Avalanche are hoping that it's only week to week, so it could be a little bit more serious. So Mackenzie Blackwood was obviously the number 1 guy there in Colorado, but he's going to be playing a ton more games. So hopefully you're able to get in on Mackenzie Blackwood. I think this guy's the real deal. Who are they going to bring up for backup there? Any thoughts on that, Nate?
I don't even know, honestly,
I
who
was
the
going to look
third guy is there.
Some e-bug. All right. But that's fine. That'll make for good, good hockey, good media stories later on. Okay.
Trent Miner. That's the answer. Trent Miner is coming up.
I think there's a pie called the Trent Miner pie. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not.
I think it has like cookies and cream or something. I don't know. Somebody fact check me on that. Hit me up in the comments. All right. Trent Miner pie. Is that a thing? Yes or no? All right. He's a great goalie as well. We know that. Okay. Victor Hedman. See you at the party, Victor. He was partying too hard a little bit the other night. He took a puck right in the ear. All right, and he was bleeding, so he wasn't able to finish Tampa Bay's last game. He's day-to-day right now, so check his status prior to puck drop. But I saw a tweet that Eric Cernak said Hedman's okay. So if you believe Eric Cernak, Hedman is going to be fine for next game. So I don't know. Let's see what you see there. Last couple things here. Connor Ingram of the Utah Hockey Club is nearing a return. He was sent to the AHL Tucson Roadrunners, cool name, for a conditioning stint. Okay, so he might start for them on Saturday, so keep an eye on that. Otherwise, it's vegetable lasagna. Don't get any on you. Why would you have vegetable lasagna if you could have regular lasagna? Does anyone understand this?
I can only imagine that the vegans and vegetarians could inform us much better than we could aspire to know.
All right, but let's say you're not vegan or vegetarian. You got 2 options, veggie and meat. You're taking meat, right? Are you with me on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
All right, we're in agreement on that. That's called synergy, folks. Last thing here, Drew Doughty with a beautiful silver bucky on our YouTube page here. You got to check this out. He's skating again, which is great news. Sounds like end of January is probably a rough timeline. And I want to get your take on this, Nate. I mean, Brant Clark, what are we doing with Brant Clark when Doughty comes back? Do you think he holds any value, or are we just kicking him to the curb?
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue Brant Clark almost doesn't hold any value now. He's grabbed a few random assists here and there, but he hasn't scored since November 25th. Gets some blocks now and again. Shots have come and gone. The ice time is just in the gutter. 14:28 and 14:33 the last couple games. At this point, my expectation is that as soon as Doughty is ready to reclaim power play 1, he will. Whether or not that's the very first game he's back is up for debate, but I do think that Doughty comes back and takes power play 1.
That's beautiful. I love those silver helmets. Those are sick. And I love when Vegas and LA play each other and they have the gold and silver. That's a good time for everybody involved. Nate, we need to attack that schedule, and we need to do it now. What do you got for us?
All right, let's get into the schedule attack. Monday we got 4 games. Tuesday we got 10. Wednesday we got 4 games. Thursday we got 10. Friday 5. Saturday 15. And Sunday 5. So super heavy Saturday with the 15 game schedule there. Even the Tuesday, Thursday at 10 games, not so bad though. So you might be able to squeeze some streamers in there. So keep that in mind. But we also have a minimum of 4 games on all the off nights, which really does help out for streaming around the heavy nights if you need to. So it's actually a pretty nice streaming week, honestly. 53 total games played. That's a normal week in terms of the total number of games being played. There are no teams with a Sunday Monday back to back and no teams with a Monday Tuesday back to back. So you're not doing any kind of gymnastics or tricks around the start of the week to get some extra games played. But we do have 4 teams with a Monday, Wednesday off nights to open the week. Those are Colorado, Florida, Vancouver, and Washington. We got 5 teams with Wednesday, Friday off nights in the middle of the week: Chicago, LA, Utah, Vancouver, and Washington. And then we got 2 teams with Friday, Sunday off nights to avoid that super heavy Saturday, and that's Carolina and Detroit. Really like a couple things here. Obviously, Carolina, Detroit to avoid that super heavy Saturday, but also the Vancouver, Washington for the 3 off nights before the Saturday. Getting in 3 off night games played before Saturday even hits is obviously a really nice stream as well. So, good stuff all around there. You've definitely got options. If you've got options on everything but the Saturday, which is probably going to be the case for a lot of people, then you can go to Carolina. They got 4 games played and those 2 off nights at the most crucial point of the week. So, yeah, there's definitely some good options, some good teams to look at if you were looking for week-long streams or part-week streams. You got options this week. So finally, Blake, we're going to put our streaming hats on and we're going to get to work here.
Absolutely, buddy. I'm probably going to get pumped this week. Just caved in. I'm a good streamer. I never get to do it, so I'm excited about this week. I think it's going to be really good. But Nate, we got to talk about the worst teams to stream, or as we like to call it, lowered expectations. Oh yeah. Sweet. All right. We can't get any lower than the Nashville Predators, can we, Nate?
Well, I mean, if they beat the
Don't say it.
Okay, I won't say it.
No, I set you up and you were about to rip me one. I just found out I can mute Nate's microphone on the stream here, so I might be doing that a little bit here later on. He keeps talking yang about my hometown. All right. But yeah, we got to talk about these teams. And we've got the Nashville Predators and the New York Islanders, the clear losers in this really good streaming week here. Nashville plays Tuesday, which is 10 games, then Saturday, which is the 15, and New York Islanders play the Thursday, which is 10, and then the busy Saturday. So I do think that those 10-game days, you might be able to get a player in there, but for the New York Islanders, you're not going to hold a player until Thursday, right? So I think you got streamers there from the Islanders. You're bouncing them, right? But if you got some of these guys from Nashville, maybe you hold until Tuesday and then you kick them to the curb. But let's look into these teams here, starting with Nashville. Brady Shea, he's A-okay except for fantasy. He's not doing a damn thing, buddy. I don't know. There's a lot of consonants in that name. It's that's an interesting name. I don't know where I'm going with that. Ryan O'Reilly. This is going to be an interesting piece. What are you doing with Ryan O'Reilly? Because I think that's probably the guy. Like, we're sort of looking for that cutoff line where you would drop and where you would hold. Are you holding Ryan O'Reilly in this 2-game week?
I don't think you have to. Yeah, especially with the way that they've been shaking out the lines recently, moving stuff around where O'Reilly's playing on what looks like a second line with Gustav Nyquist and Vinny Hinostroza in this game against the Canucks that's ongoing right now, whereas you have Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault up on the top line. That being said, Ryan O'Reilly has 4 points in his last 5 games and over 18 minutes a night coming into this game here. Pretty decent underlying stats as far as it goes. So, yeah, I mean, the only place I have O'Reilly is in Kickuffle Tier 1, which is 16 team.
Yeah.
And I'm probably hanging on to him there unless I really don't have anything else to move and I really need those extra games played. But yeah, anything kind of more normal 12 team or something like that, I feel like you're probably okay to move on from O'Reilly. You're okay to move on from Brady Shea. Basically all these guys.
Yep. And then, I mean, in terms of bangers leagues, we do have some options here. Guys like Jeremy Lauzon, Luke Shen. Looking at these guys' point totals is ridiculous. Like Jeremy Lauzon is pacing for 3 points on the season. Very nice. And Luke Shen, 4. Okay. This is some high quality stuff, but these guys are elite bangers. Are you holding them in bangers leagues?
Lozon, I think you would because his ceiling is just that high for the hits, right? Um, it's Kiefer Sherwood. It's Jeremy Lozon in the next tier, and then it's everybody else. It feels like a little bit after that.
Yeah.
So I do think Lozon is probably in the tier where you would hang on to him through this week. Luke Shen for me is not. I think he's much more in the run of the mill, really good banger stream of the week kind of scenario. So I think Shen is a player to drop even in bangers cats.
Get these beefers off my squad. We're going vegan. We're getting that vegetable lasagna. It's delicious. All right. Nutritional yeast. Get it in your life. You know what I'm talking about, Nate?
I would not deign to know what nutritional yeast is. I wouldn't want to
What?
perjure myself.
God's sake. All right. Well, that's fine. We gotta expand your horizons, buddy. All right. Let's move on over to the New York Islanders. And yeah, I mean, there's some guys here that we definitely don't need to be holding, but let's talk about Bo Horvat. I think that's a guy we're holding on to, obviously. Brock Nelson, it starts to get a little bit weirder at Brock Nelson. He didn't score in all of December. That's crazy. I mean, geez, that's really rough. We got Anders Lee, we got Kyle Palmieri, kicking drywall downs, chugging monsters. He doesn't give a damn. What are you doing with these Islanders? Like, where's your cutoff here?
Yeah, it is a weird spot for sure. Like Bo Horvat, I dropped Bo Horvat in a league
Oh my,
at one point, and picked up Nazem Kadri for whatever that's worth.
I like that.
So like if those kinds of options are available to you, then yeah, I don't mind making that drop in a 2 game week, right? Like, but that obviously your mileage will vary on what kind of league that you're in and how attentive people are. That being said, like Horvat here, almost 20 minutes a night, 32nd in shots per 60 over the last five. I think that the Islanders in general like are not as bad as people think they are. I know that the results haven't been there.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a finishing problem, but this is a team that's second in the league over the last 2 weeks in Corsi 4 per 60. It's a team that is third in the league in scoring chances 4 per 60 at 5v5 over the last 2 weeks. So I do think that things will turn around for this team once the pucks start to go in. They start to get that rhythm going again. Yeah, I'm not like super concerned about them overall, but definitely I don't think you have to feel super beholden to guys, especially if there are other guys who like feel like they're in a similar tier to begin with, and then you can just go out and get those guys and get the extra games played. Brock Nelson is a really tough one. Down to 225th in shots per 60 over the last five. Still getting minutes, but it's a 44-point pace. There's talk of him being traded.
Yeah.
That's out there in the Twitter sphere at the very least, if not,
Must be true. I think it's got
it's
to be
got to
true.
be true. So that's really tough. I honestly think you can drop Brock Nelson if there's a really good option out there for you, and Brock Nelson is the guy that gets you the most out of your streamer to drop. Anders Lee's been performing pretty well, especially the on ice stats are really good the last little bit here. That's one that you might want to try to hang on to while he's performing this well. Um, but again, not a player that I feel you have to. And same goes for Palmieri. Palmieri, honestly, I wouldn't even think twice about dropping.
Yeah, there's nothing super exciting going on the island there. I saw a funny quote from Patrick Waugh. He's like, I have no proof of this, but we're playing well. Like something like that. Like it was just like a quick little snippet I saw on Twitter. It's like, oh, well, if you say so, sir. I mean, damn, he's got 2 Stanley Cup rings, so that's fine. But yeah, it's been a rough go for the Islanders there, and Patrick Waugh in particular. I do feel like his job is in jeopardy. Like if they keep kind of sliding the way they are, like yeah, like you said, the Corsi 4 is there, but the finishing is god awful, and they just their power play stinks, their penalty kill stinks. What the hell's going on? Anywho, all right, let's move on from the Islanders. This team's pissing me off. Okay. There are 7 teams that play 3 games all on the busy nights. So again, the Tuesday and Thursday are 10 games. So you might be able to get some players in here so you don't have to drop anybody. But those 7 teams are the Boston Bruins, Columbus Blue Jackets, Edmonton Oilers, New York Rangers, Philly, St. Louis, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, check your streamers on those teamers. Okay. But now we got to cross the streams, folks. We got to get into the best teams to stream. crossing the streams. Yeah. All right, Nate, I got to get back to business here. You know how we're always trying to take our streams to the limit. You know, when we cross the streams, we're trying to, just kind of one up each other. You know what I mean?
Yes, obviously. Like,
Yeah. Well,
what else are you gonna do?
I mean, we're bored, right? We're like, you cross the streams 100 times, whatever. So, we're always trying to take it to the limit. And yeah, we do have a cautionary tale here. Nate and I, over the break here, it was awesome. We went out wine tasting as we do. You remember that, Nate? We went up to this beautiful ranch, just tasted some different wines here. Nate's a Shiraz guy. I like a good Malbec. You know what I mean? So, anywho, we're drinking, we're having a good time, we're loading up the streams, right? And we decided to break the seal and basically see who has the stronger stream. Okay. And I wouldn't recommend this. All right. But basically, we just faced each other and lined up and fired away. You know what I mean? It was kind of like Dragon Ball Z when those two guys it's like just and then you see it kind of goes one way or the other, right? It's like a tug of war, but with urine. Okay. I don't know where I'm going with this, folks. I'm sorry. But I'm not sure what was going on. Nate was overpowering me for a little bit there, like a hot damn. And, I guess he did have more wine, right? He had a couple more glasses. And yeah, anyways, there was a beautiful shrub behind me next to a little lawn gnome. And he basically pushed me back over that shrub. I fell backwards. I ended up on my back. And you can tell what happened from there, right? Yeah. So we had to go home. I had to change the clothes in the car, so that's fine. But the lesson is, don't go against Nate in a stream contest, because this man, I don't know, like somebody called Guinness. Like we need to check the PSI and what was happening there. What am I doing, Nate? God, I'm sorry. Nate, you a big wine guy? Like, in all seriousness, what you like drinking wine or what?
I enjoy drinking wine, but I cannot say that I'm a massive connoisseur. I can tell you the names of the different wine varieties that I enjoy, but that's about it.
Isn't there a wine called Gerstewiener? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Gewürztraminer, yes.
Gesundheit. Oh God, why? Who thought that wine was a good idea? Who was like, these grapes? Let's squish the hell out of them and then leave them out in the sun. You know what
You
I
know
mean?
what's even weirder is who thought that milk was a good idea? Like who's the first guy who
I'm
got
still with you
down,
on that.
yeah, under a cow and was like, I wonder if I squeeze this and drink whatever comes out. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Oh, buddy, why? Yeah, and then I don't know. I could go on this all day. Like bread, like who found out what yeast is, and how did they? What? Like, why does yeast exist, or wheat even? You take a dry stalk, you crush it up, and you put water on it. I don't understand. Nate, we're digressing here, but
A little bit.
that's fine. This is good for the people. All right, you need to know what goes inside this head. All right, that's vital information. But what's even more vital, and what's even a better segue, is we got to talk about some good teams to stream from here. And there are a couple big winners here. Again, as Nate said, it's a great streaming week. Vancouver Canucks and the Washington Capitals both play 4 games with 3 off nights. They have identical schedules, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they're both great teams to start your week off with, right? You get those 3 off nights right off the bat. Then you can maybe figure out something like Saturday, Sunday, if you can fit a goalie stream in, or you can whatever you want to do there. But yeah, it's really good. Let's talk about Vancouver Canucks here and some of the players available on that team. And yeah, it's probably pretty slim pickings here. You got Kiefer, aka Beefer Sherwood. He should definitely be rostered this week. This guy does a lot more than just hit. He shoots the puck pretty well, and he gets a reasonable amount of time. He definitely puts his stamp on the game, but he's going to give you that if you have any peripheral weighting, or if it's a bangers league, obviously he should be rostered. But he'll give you a peripheral floor there. He does stuff. Connor Garland as well, I think, is another guy that definitely should be rostered. 4 points in his last 5 games. You know how I feel about Connor Garland. This guy's on a 64-point pace. That's crazy. It's not crazy when you watch the guy play, but I don't know. He's just not a good finisher. It is what he is, but he's a spark plug on that team. I also think Eric Brandstrom is a player of interest. Nate and I were talking offline. Obviously, Tyler Myers got power play 1 last game, so maybe you want to try Tyler Myers, but I think Brandstrom has a higher ceiling in terms of offense if he gets power play 1 there. So that's a player of interest for me. Who are you interested in on the Vancouver Canucks here?
Yeah, obviously, like Sherwood's going to be rostered in Bangers Cats, but in points leagues, he may still be out there, so he makes a lot of sense. He actually did get some power play one time in this game here on
Nice.
Friday, so that's worth noting. And then obviously Connor Garland, pretty well trusted by Tocchet there in any situation, so he'll be out there. He's got 4 points in his last five, so he's doing that. Definitely Garland, I think, is the best of the group here. Yeah, Myers getting the top power play is not something that's really exciting to me. Brandstrom wasn't even in this game
Yeah.
here against Nashville. So, I mean, I share your sentiment that Brandstrom is a better potential point scorer, but obviously he's got to be in the lineup for that to be worth anything. If if you've got a little bit of a banger heavy format, Myers getting some power play time could run into an assist or two here or there. Like that might
Yeah.
not be the worst look if this continues to hold, but yeah, stay tuned on that because obviously, I think the Canucks and everybody else are just praying that Quinn Hughes is back sooner rather than later to relieve us of the Chaos Giraffe experience.
Oh my God! Please, dear God, just a long necked beauty, unbelievable neck per 60. He's first in the league. Chris Kreider at number two.
Okay.
But we've talked about this before. These guys are vampire bait, right? If vampires are real, these guys are targets. All right, and they got to watch themselves. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. Are vampires real, Nate? What do you think? Do you think
Uh,
they
I
existed in
would
time at some point here?
I would say no personally. Where do you fall on this hotly contested issue, Blake?
I guess. I mean, I'm sure at some point in on Earth, someone drank someone's blood, but I mean, it's probably just some sicko. You know what I mean? He didn't drink it because he needed to survive. He drank it because he's a lunatic. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's move on. We'll talk about Washington. I'm on a lot of cold medication right now, and yeah, things are chickens are coming home to roost, Nate. All right, and I'm sorry about this, but anyways, let's talk about Washington. They got some bits and pieces that we can be interested in. Okay. First off, Alexi Protas, he saved his goal scoring for this week instead of last week when I picked him for the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. Buddy, thanks a lot. All right, but he's a good player. PLD, a point pace. I got to check this right now. He's pacing for 63 points. Oh my God! Did anybody think this was possible? I don't know. That's a shot in the dark. Matt Roy, Martin Verhevery for Bangers Leagues. Talk to me about the Washington Capitals, Nate, and sort of your interest in some of these players.
Yeah, I think both protests and PLD make some sense as streamers. Yeah, I think Garland I would take over both of them, but Protus and PLD make some sense beyond that for sure. I don't know, like how excited
Yeah.
you really want to get about it. It is like that is the second line. So they did make some changes to the lines of practice here today on Friday. It was Taylor Radish up on the top line with Ovechkin and Strome. I don't honestly know how excited I am about that. Like he'll be rostered in my 16 team tier one couple for sure, but I don't know if in 12 team leagues you really need to be chasing that. I think I'd still take Protas and Dubois over him there. And then you got Wilson on that line with Protas and Dubois. And then you got McMichael demoted down to the third line now after he's been kind of scuffling for the last little bit. So yeah, the situation in Washington has definitely moved around a bit, but I do think that Protas and Dubois in particular make a lot of sense as a 1 week stream here. And then yeah, Matt Roy and Martin Verhevery. Hopefully I'm getting that right, but I think that both these guys are more so bangers kind of players. Matt Roy has at times shown a propensity to shoot the puck and run into some points here or there. It hasn't really come to rest at any point in his stay in Washington so far. He's got 0 points his last five, so it's definitely not like he's hot at the moment, but he does get a little bit more minutes than most of the guys there. So yeah, that is both those guys are looks in bangers leagues.
Martin Verhevery, so hot right now. I've read that. I think check your rosters. I think my voice is cracked there. Check your waivers for Connor McMichael because yeah, he has been dropped in some spots here, so he's definitely an ad for this week if he's out there. What do you think about McMichael moving forward? Like obviously he's down on the third line now, second power play. Do you think he sort of reclaims some of that magic he had earlier on this year?
Yeah, I think he showed it for long enough that I believe in the player now.
Yep.
I feel similarly to the way I felt about when, Troy Terry first broke out. Some of these other guys, whereas like, okay, there's something actually real here. Like this is not
Yeah.
just like a guy that like every shot that he takes is going in. It's a guy that's actually generating stuff, and that's gone away a little bit here. I think it's I say this about a lot of players, but it's easy to forget how young some of these guys are and how they really haven't been in this situation a lot before. Connor McMichael, to me, kind of falls into that scenario. This is that 23-year-old young man who is really just getting his first chance to show at any sustained high level of ice time what he can do. Um, I mean, for all we know, he's also like pretty banged up, and that's really the only thing that's causing all these problems as of late. And so they're kind of doing him a bit of a service to demote him down the lineup. Who knows exactly? But for all that, I would say that, yeah, if McMichael has been dropped, then definitely he's an interesting look as well. Yeah, where he would fit between Protoss and PLD is definitely a conversation at that point. I feel like it's probably pretty likely that he comes up off the third line at some point throughout the week. But do you take maybe the quote unquote safety of the protest PLD pick versus the potential of the McMichael pick? That's kind of the calculus that you'll have to make for yourself.
Fair enough. All right. Moving on, we got some teams with some good schedules as well. Carolina, Colorado, and Seattle all play 4 games with 2 off nights. But Carolina is the best of the bunch there because their 2 busy nights are on the 10-game Tuesday and the 10-game Thursday, and then they play Friday, Sunday. So you might check your rosters, but you might be able to get a Carolina player in for all 4 games. So that's kind of a nice place to be. So let's start in Carolina. Nothing could be finer. We got Brent Burns, potentially, if he's out there. He's 55% rostered. I mean, definitely should be rostered again for this week. I've said on social media and here too, I think out of Ty Smith and Brent Burns, I'm taking Burns all day, even if he's on power play too. I think there's more value there. Ty Smith just isn't getting the minutes. And yeah, he's kind of like a Uvis Balinskis or an Adam Boqvist kind of character or a Tony D'Angelo kind of guy, right? And I just don't like that deployment, but he's out there as well. Dmitry Orlov, Roslovic as well. Like he's still getting that first line deployment there in Carolina. Like this guy's having a darn nice season. And yeah, I think certainly during this week, he should be rostered. Talk to me about the Hurricanes here.
Yeah, I think among the forwards, Roslovic is definitely the guy you're looking at there, the one with the most point potential. He's actually got, what is it, 6 points in his last 5 here, over 16 minutes average time on ice. So doing the thing at the moment, mostly just by virtue of being attached to Aho and Jarvis at even strength. But that's one way to get it done when the team that you play for is the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm not going to hold that against him. As far as the defensemen go, yeah, I think there are kind of 3 main options here between Burns, Orlov, and Ty Smith. I tend to agree that Burns is the one you want. The underlying metrics are the best. The minutes are roughly the best. Him and Orlov are about the same. So yeah, I think Burns is the correct call there, but I'm not excited about any of
Yeah.
these guys, really, unless it's a pretty deep league. So I'm not going out of my way to try to snap up any of these 3 defensemen.
You know, it's weird. I like excited is not the right word, but I do get kind of juiced when I get a player like Brent Burns because that, like in a points league with peripheral, weighting and whatever, like they always give you something, and like at the end of the day, we're looking at these really close matchups, and you win by like 10 or something like that. Well, Brent Burns could get that for you in 4 games. He could get you 10 points in your points league, right? So I like when I get players like that. I am low key into Brent Burns on the year, right? Certainly with Gus Despair out, I think that's a decent ad. But I don't know. I've noticed myself a lot more this year, kind of going in on those lesser defensemen that are just going to give you something, right? They're going to get some shots, they're going to get some blocks, things like that. So I don't know. He's one of those type of guys. Anywho, let's move on. What the hell am I talking about now? Colorado, right? Okay, we got Jonathan Drouin out there, Ross Cameo, Colton, and Casey Middlestad. Are these guys still out there? Because if they are, you should probably snap them up. All right, we got 2 off nights at least for these guys. How would you rank these 3 guys here?
Yeah, I think I'm going Druin. I mean, Middlestat is on the top power play as the last practice that we have at this point. Um, I still might take Colton over Middlestat. Middlestat has been just ice cold for a long time now. It's really hard to sign off on a Middlestat pickup right now. That being said, like it is the Colorado Power Play one, so there is that element, and we've seen Middlestat obviously be productive for stretches there. So I'd say Druin conclusively number one, Colton Middlestat. Pick your flavor, I guess.
Yep. I love that deployment for Druon. It's crazy. Like he comes back off injury and he's just rocking 20 minutes right off the bat. They don't give a
Yeah,
damn. So yeah, he reminds me of like a guy like JT Compher, who I've talked about before when he played with Colorado and he was getting those 20 minutes. It's like, and Druon is a better offensive player than Compher is. So
yeah.
yeah, I love that deployment, and this team is so good for fantasy. So I'm with you there. Seattle, let's talk about them. We got the Jerk Store, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Jaden Schwartz. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Um, he's been great lately. So I'm in on Jaden Schwartz. I've got him in a couple spots. Adam Larson for Beefer leagues. Eli Tolvanen for Beefers as well. How are you ranking some of these guys? Throw Chandler Stevenson in there. What are you doing? Put some respect on that man's name. He's playing mini sticks out there, and we're here for it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, first off, I can't sign off on Chandler Stevenson. I'm contractually obligated not to. He's averaging. He's on pace for 9 goals on the season at the moment, which is just horrific considering he's averaged almost 20 minutes a night to this point. Um, yeah, I guess I I have at times throughout the last number of years recommended Jaden Schwartz, and he's always been terrible as soon as I recommended him. And so, going by the numbers, going by everything that I see on the screen in front of me, Jaden Schwartz is the correct answer as the best stream on Seattle for next week. But do I have any faith that that's actually going to come to pass next week? I have none. So there's that. Then obviously Bjorkstrand would probably be the next guy. Matty Beniers is hot at the moment. You could go that route as well. Again, not super excited or not super thinking that that's going to be
Yeah.
sustainable in the long term. Larson for the Bangs, Tolvanen for the Bangs, although he's got no points in his last five and the minutes are pretty down there. So you're definitely taking a swing. No matter, I mean, it's Seattle, right? You're taking a swing no matter which way you go.
Yep. I mean, I'm with you there. I do like Matty Beniers, but the deployment hasn't been exactly what I wanted. Like he's getting less than 17 minutes in the last 5 games. That stinks. Yeah, I think Schwartz is a Huckleberry. He's fan the Flames right now. Stay in those Flames. He's cooking right now. I think that's who I'd roll with too. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about. There are a bunch of teams that play 3 games with 2 off nights, so we'll do a real quick kind of rapid fire here. Chicago, Detroit, Florida, LA Kings, Montreal, and Utah. I'm going to give you some players, Nate. You tell me who you're rolling with. All right, starting with
All right.
Chicago. We got this is an easy one, so I won't give you Seth Jones, although he is 55% rostered, and I would take Seth Jones a million times over Brent Burns. That makes a hell of a lot of sense there. So Jones should be rostered, but we've got Tara Vinen, we've got Connor Murphy, who I should mention is day-to-day potentially injured. We got the Pickle, Alex Vlasic, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Taylor Hall. Who are you taking in Chicago?
Yeah, it's pretty easily Bertuzzi here for me. He's on the top line with Bedard. He's on the top power play. Yeah, that's basically all the numbers you need to crunch in terms of figuring out who to roster there. So yeah, it's Bertuzzi with a bullet for me. Then I think I'd take Hall over Teravainen. If I had to, Hall's got 5 points his last 5. Teravainen's only got a couple of assists and obviously doesn't shoot the puck a whole lot, so he's not giving you much when he's not actually getting assists. Vlasic has halfway decent underlying stats, but it's power play 2 for him now. And while the minutes are still good, realistically, he's just kind of a block machine now back there for them and not much else. So I think the time has really passed for Vlasic. Connor Murphy showed up on an injury report. I believe he missed the game here tonight for Chicago. So you have to be cognizant of whatever's going on there if you're picking him up in bangers.
There you go. Chicago continues to be a cesspool for fantasy. Look at these ice times. This is crazy. Who's getting the minutes in Chicago there? Like, what? I mean, they're all playing like under 16 minutes. Some of these top guys. So I don't know. It's make sense. I don't know who's out there. Nick Foligno. Is he getting more? I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, I'm not picking him up. Let's go over to Detroit. Patty Kane. All right, you got to have him. I like his role there under the new coach. I think, yeah, it's not like he's unlocked him like Patty Kane is who he is, but I feel like it's a nice fresh start for a player that was struggling a little bit, and he's been able to put some points on the board. 5 points in the last 5 for Patrick Kane. I love that. He's doing what he does, and it's really good to see. Tarasenko is there as well. Joe Veleno. Any interest in Tarasenko or Veleno?
I mean, it's kind of just the next two names that you have to talk about when you talk about Detroit. Valeno's been on the top line with Larkin and Raymond, which is why he comes up. And then Tarasenko actually has the kind of the best underlying numbers in the last little bit here of the deeper Detroit players. So that's really the only reason to think about either of those two. I think I'd take Veleno over Tarasenko, honestly, just to get that Larkin Raymond exposure on the top line if you had to go there in a super deep league. But definitely Patrick Kane, if he's available, he shouldn't be.
Yep, absolutely. We were on Kane. Isn't that an amazing take? You should roster Patrick Kane. Yeah, we were on top of it, and it feels good, right, buddy?
Turns out he's good at hockey. Who knew?
He might be good. Yeah. Over to Florida. Same old story there. We like Anton Lundell, definitely a rosterable player. Evan Rodriguez, the ultimate chucker. And then what are we doing with Mackie Samoskevich? Do you think like this time on power play 1, obviously that boosts his value, but does it put him over the hump? Is this a guy you're interested in at all?
Honestly, not really. Lundell, I have a little bit of interest for 29th in shots per 60 over the last 18 plus minutes a night. That's actually pretty decent. So definitely Lundell is number 1 there. Rodriguez number 2. Samoskevich has been getting this little bit of run on the top power play for Florida. I think that lasts maybe one more game, if that. And then it's probably back to Verhaeghe. Verhaeghe right now, tweeted about it, but Verhaeghe's the biggest buy low out there right now. This is absolutely the lowest point of the season for him in my mind, unless there's like some major injury that he's just hiding, and we're gonna find out next game that he's like gonna be injured for the rest of the year and not play
Yep.
at all. That notwithstanding, I do think Verhaeghe is somebody that you should be sending offers for in your league, and that he takes back the power play 1 sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, man, because yeah, I've been getting lots of questions about this guy as well. People are like, drop Verhaeghe. It's like, no, don't drop Verhaeghe, please. Okay. This is just like you said, probably the lowest point of the season. He's going to be back. A lot of the top guys on Florida are not really performing right now. So, it's just really showing on Verhaeghe because he's getting donuts. He did get an assist here tonight, though. So I'm happy to see that on the power play. So that's great as well. Thank you, Swaggy Verhaeghe. Let's move over to Los Angeles Kings. Quentin Byfield, is he out there right now? 43% rostered? Should be higher. He's cooking right now. I think that's a player you got to have on your team. Alex Laferriere, Warren Fogle, Phil Deneau. I mean, talk to me about these players here. Like, is Byfield for real?
Um, there's there's conflicting things here with Byfield for me. So Byfield has the pedigree, and I think this is a player that has a long, productive NHL career ahead of him. Do I think that at this exact moment that Quentin Byfield is like a slam dunk gonna be a star for the rest of the season for fantasy purposes? No, I don't. Um, I I mean I love the 21 minutes a night he's getting in the last 5 games. That's something to write home about for sure. But 196 shots per 60, 172 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 265, Corsi 4 per 60. The underlying numbers have not matched up for Byfield to make this kind of jump in production legit or sustainable for the rest of the season at any point here. And that's still the part that I'm kind of waiting on. Definitely with 21 minutes a night, he can be decent, but yeah, not like league winner level, in my opinion. So there's that. Fogel also has 6 points in his last 5, kind of along for the ride there. Yeah, both these guys running hot. Fogel, I think, benefiting from Byfield more than vice versa. Laferriere, like he's only got 2 points in his last 5, but he's skating almost 19 minutes a night. He's 14th in shots per 60 over the last 5. So there's a little bit of something there as well if you need to. And then Phil Deneau's got 4 assists in the last 4 games. So he's always a guy that you feel like you can stream and probably get something out of.
Yeah, I really like the options there. I mean, LA plays Wednesday, Friday, and then the busy Saturday. So, a midweek stream if you want some of these LA guys. But these are some of the better options that I've seen from the streamers that we're talking about here, like Byfield, LaFerriere, and Fogle in particular. So I like that. Let's move on. Montreal is in this category as well. And yeah, the streamers there in Montreal, like it's not great, right? Yura Slavkovsky is at 53%. So if he's out there, I think that makes a lot of sense. What about taking a ride with Jake Evans or Kirby Doc? I mean, are you interested at all in these players? We talked about Jake Evans, gave him his flowers, and then just tooted right in his face as well. It was a backhanded compliment. But is he someone you're interested in this week?
No, I pretty much have no interest. Patrick Laine randomly missed this game with an illness here on Friday, and it was Joel Armia that went up on the top power play. Again, that's probably not going to affect
God.
anything for next week. But yeah, just it goes to show like it doesn't feel like there's anybody behind the top guys in Montreal, right? So yeah, if Slavkovsky has been dropped, then you can go make that ad. But again, it's just been absolutely brutal in terms of generating anything for Slavkovsky this year. 352nd in shots per 60 in the last 5 games, 353rd in shots per 60 on the season. He's not been able to get it going at any point this year. And so it really is just a 1 week stream, and you hope for some pucks to bounce in off him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like that's a player that just has a lot of promise and still does for his career. But I think people thought that promise was coming this season. And he was drafted. Where was he drafted? Like 65 or in around there, 65, 75, like ADP. That always felt a bit rich for me. So glad I dodged that bullet, but I do hope he kind of picks it up here rest of the season. Last team in this tier, Utah Hockey Club. We got to talk about Nicky Schmaltz. Still only 26% rostered. Make it make sense. I don't understand. Like that's a guy that we are in on, and I think he should be rostered here. Jack McBain. Let's get silly. And Barrett Hayton is out there as well. I mean, where do you see Nick Schmaltz for rest of season? Like what kind of point production do you think he's capable of?
Yeah, at this level of deployment, close to 19 minutes, I do think that Nick Schmaltz should be in this 65-ish point range, 20 to 25 goal pace, 65 point pace. Somewhere in there feels pretty comfortable for Nick Schmaltz as a rest of season pace. And then I do think he has some potential for a little bit more. I've mentioned before the individual scoring chances for have been up this year. He's been doing a little bit more shooting than he has in years past. So I do think that there is even a little bit more ceiling beyond that. We've obviously seen him in years past have 70-point pace seasons as well. So it's not like that would be something new for Nick Schmaltz. So definitely a player that's pretty interesting. Jack McBain plays on that Cooley Genther line, so you always figure there's a chance that he runs into some points, but really you're just there for the bangs with McBain. And then Barrett Hayton is still centering Keller and Schmaltz on the top line, but he's gone very cold in terms of his generation, and so it's pretty tough to get excited about that one either.
Are you still rocking with him? You had him on a team or two.
Yeah, I don't have Barrett Hayton anywhere, and I haven't for quite some time at this point.
I've been misinformed. All right, that's terrible. All right, let's move on. All right, there are 7 teams that play 4 games with 1 off night. We're not going to go through all those players, but I'll give you the teams here. All 7 of these teams play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So they are Anaheim, Dallas, Minnesota, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Vegas. So, I mean, this could be good if you've got space on the 10-game Tuesday or Thursday slates. So definitely just check your roster and see what makes sense. But Nathaniel, talk to us about the Patreon.
All right. The Patreon, $2 a month gets you the supporter tier, access to patron-only live shows. I will be doing a patron-only show after the Puzzling Players live stream on Monday here coming up. So if you want to get in for that, I am going to be talking about my mid-season buys and sells. So I think that'll be pretty interesting for a lot of people now that I feel like we have a pretty good handle on the season that has been so far. I feel pretty comfortable kind of putting some names out there that I think will be helpful for people to go acquire, or names that people should actually be looking to sell off. So that's in the $2 tier, gets you access to those Patreon live shows. You can also get that access through the $8 tier. The Apples tier And you'll also get access to patron-only Discord channels. You'll get access to my show notes, the show notes for this episode, the show notes for the flagship episode, gets you all these rankings and everything we're talking about in written format, so you can refer back to it as you're looking at your teams throughout the week next week and trying to figure out who to add. Also gets you access to Apple's and Juno's player evaluation tool, which will help you make all those decisions as well. If you are a true degenerate at the sport of fantasy hockey, then the $15 a month Geno's tier exists just for you. All questions answered, guaranteed by yours truly, plus all the other perks that I mentioned before. That's what it's there for. Blake, are you ready for some dream streams?
Let's do it, buddy.
All right, best for points ranked at the top of the list. I've got Connor Garland, and second, I've got Alexi Protas. That's how I'm feeling it right now. Honestly, this is probably the toughest ranking that I've had to do all year. I feel really not super settled about any of this. I went to the 2 off night guys immediately after those top two: Patrick Kane, Nick Schmaltz, Quentin Byfield, Jonathan Drouin, LaFerriere I threw in here before going back to PLD, and Sherwood. Also threw Jack Roslovic in here at the bottom because I do think there's a lot of teams out there who could get Roslovic in for all 4 games because he plays that Tuesday, Thursday, and then the Friday, Sunday, avoiding the super heavy Saturday. Who's sticking out to you here, Blake? Because I feel like I honestly don't feel like I'm tiering this at all. I think it's just a list of 10 guys.
I think I do like the Washington players probably over like a guy like Alex Laferriere. So like PLD, I'd probably put him above Laferriere, just because you're going to get more games out of him most likely. But yeah, it's great. I love the Jack Roslovic ad there as well. But yeah, you're right. It's a difficult week to kind of gauge, isn't it? Which is a nice problem to have. Like you will have a bunch of options this week.
Yep. Let's move over to the bangers side of things. For hits, you got Dakota Joshua, Noah Juleson off of Vancouver, William Carrier, Matt Roy, Brandon Duhaime, Ili Tolvanen. All these guys make a lot of sense. Obviously, Kiefer Sherwood, but I assume that he's already rostered in your Bangers Cats leagues. For blocks, Noah Juleson shows up here again. Carson Soucy, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Martin Fervery, Rasmus Sandin, and Matt Roy. I like Matt Roy because there's a chance that he provides you a little bit of offense, shots, something along the way as well. Also like Juleson just for that mad hits and blocks that he's been throwing around the last little bit here. So both those guys make a lot of sense to me. Anybody you'd like to add or highlight here, Blake?
No, just get yourself somebody who does both. All right. Noah Juleson, buddy, he's a beaver.
He does that. Let's move on to Hold Me. Now, this segment is where we talk about all the players that we want to hold the most. And for myself, that's always been Brian Rust and always will be Brian Rust, but also some other guys that have fallen under the 50% mark that I think should not have. Buchnevich, Kane, Tyler Toffoli, these guys, in my mind, should be rostered in way more leagues for sure. So get these guys in your life. Nick Schmaltz, Troy Terry, JJ Paterka, Dylan Holloway, Marco Rossi. We've definitely got a lot of names that are showing out right now. And making some noise and worth including. Quentin Byfield, Jonathan Huberdeau, Elias Lindholm, Dmitry Voronkov. That feels like the next tier for me. Um, I, I think that Voronkov, as long as he holds his deployment, is probably more exciting than his specific rank that I've got here. I just still don't have like a ton of confidence that he's just gonna be this guy for the entire rest of the season on the top line and top power play. Yeah, that's just something to think about there. Logan Stankoven, Josh Norris, Matthew Nyes, Alex Laferriere, Anders Lee round out the list that I had here. Anybody you want to add to this list here, Blake?
You know damn well I want to add somebody to this list. Where is the Stefan Nason love? Okay, this man's 49% rostered. Well, he's playing on power play 1. All right, he does that. This guy is a poor man's Zach Hyman, a very poor man. All right, basically, a poor man that pulls out his pockets and like there's nothing in there. There's like bits of string. That's Stefan Nason. All right, but he's playing in the top 6 in power play 1. I think he should definitely be rostered.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that I've never been as excited about Nason as you have been, but I think that he was also not 49% rostered when I made the list, so he's obviously just dipped under the line to gain here. So makes sense to add him to the list for sure. Moving down, sub 20% rostered, Ross Colton, Victor Olofsson, Jaden Schwartz, Victor Arvidsson, Pavel Zaka, Pavel Dorofiev, Yegor Sharangovich, William Eklund coming back from injury shortly. Some interesting names here for sure. Victor Olofsson has actually held on to line one, power play one deployment for a little bit now. It's making me a little bit more feel a little bit more settled about him. Jaden Schwartz obviously hot as of late. If he can parlay this into some sustained bigger minutes for the rest of the season, then we could be looking at something there. Victor Arvidsson has been widely dropped in every league, it feels like, with all the injuries he's dealt with yet again this year. But there's a chance that he just becomes Draisaitl's everyday winger, and that's probably a pretty valuable place to be. Sub 10% rostered Mason McTavish, Tyler Bertuzzi, Matt Coronado, Anthony Duclair, Connor Zary, and Taylor Hall. I think Matt Coronado is a pretty interesting look right now that I want to kind of highlight. I've already talked about McTavish, talked about Bertuzzi as a good stream, but I want to highlight Coronado, 9th in shots per 60, 29th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 5 games. Only 3 points to show for it, but over 19 minutes a night as well. So I like Coronado a fair bit as a potential pick up and hold. How about you, Blake? Any of these guys really sticking out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Victor Olofsson. I think that's definitely a player of interest. But Jason Zucker as well. I want to throw his name out there. This guy's 17% rostered. Obviously, we don't expect him to get a hat trick every night, but he's playing line one, power play one right now in Buffalo, and he's doing stuff out there. And at only 17% rostered, like, yeah, he's a valuable player. So I think that's definitely a guy we want to have in here.
Good shout out there. I'll add him to the list. Heading over to defensemen, this is an absolute wasteland, in my opinion, at the moment. Cam Fowler tops the list, 37% rostered. Owen Powerboy and Byron both 36%. Jackson Lacombe, who scored a power play goal in the game here tonight. Justin Falk as well. Sub 20% rostered. I've got Lacombe, Falk. I threw in Ekman Larson, but that's not a very inspiring addition to make to the list. Am I missing somebody here, Blake, or is the defense position as barren as I think it is right now?
No, it is, and I feel like the forward position is getting there too. It's at this point of the season, it's getting to be slim pickings a little bit, right? These are a lot of these guys are flyers, right? And on D, it's even worse. I do like Jackson Lacombe though. I feel like he's dodged that sort of healthy scratch thing that Greg Cronin's doing there. It seems like Mintyukov and Zellweger are the guys sort of feeling that pain. So Lacombe, I don't know. I'm interested. I have him in one spot, but it's tentative, isn't it?
For sure. Let's move along and talk about some goaltenders here. So Vejmelka here, I still have at the top of the list. Obviously, we talked about Ingram coming back here. Don't know what that split's going to look like, but so far on the season, at least, Vejmelka has conclusively outplayed Ingram when they've been both healthy. So it feels like at least a 50-50, maybe even still a 1A situation for Vejmelka. So I'll keep him on top of the list for now. Jonathan Quick, as we mentioned, as long as Shesterkin's out, I don't have a lot of details about this injury that Shesterkin's dealing with. It sounds like it's not too serious, but if there was to be something a little bit more, then Quick could turn into something a little bit longer. And that's how we want to play 0G. So I thought I'd add him to the list here just for that shout out. Lucas Dostal, Cam Talbot, Charlie Lindgren, Elvis Merzlikins are all options that may get you some volume here or there. Sub 25% rostered, we go to Tristan Jarry, Petr Mrazek, and John Gibson. Obviously, a little less enthusiastic endorsements for those guys. Out of these names that I've mentioned here, Blake, who holds your fancy the most?
Holds my fancy, tickles my fancy. It's I've kind of been doing this in a lot of spots, is like spot streaming Charlie Lindgren. And just because Washington is such a good team, but they're kind of doing a 1-1, right? Like it's not a great, like it's one of those good streams if you calculate how many games Charlie Lindgren's going to get in a week. Like if he's getting 2 in a week, that's an auto ad for me. I think he's a great goalie first off, and he's playing on a great team. So 41%, he's out there.
Definitely is. Definitely a good shout out there. All right. We need to talk, unfortunately, again about the head to head streamer deathmatch.
Oh yeah.
So it turns out I should have taken Troy Terry, as one of our listeners astutely pointed out. Troy Terry has 22.75, a couple points in 3 games played, whereas Nick Schmaltz has a measly 4.5 in his 3 games played. So unless Nick Schmaltz pops off for, I think he'd have to score a hat trick plus get an assist in the next game, and Troy Terry would have to do absolutely nothing. Yeah, either way, feels like we're heading towards yet another loss. Feels like I pick a good one. The trend the last little bit is I pick a good one and then I pick the absolute worst player possible in the following week. So maybe next week. But I think this one we can probably put to bed already. You got anything to say for yourself here, Blake?
Well, there's always next week, Nate. That's good. And you know what? Just keep tweaking that strategy. If you need any tips, just hit me up. I mean, get in the DMs. I can help you out.
All right. When you beat me in a fantasy league, we'll
Oh
have that
God!
conversation.
Maybe it'll happen. We're in one league together, and we're both doing pretty damn well.
This
So
is
that
true.
would be epic. Oh, I would love that. Just to
All
play
right.
you.
Well, if you made it this far and put up with Blake and I's banter with each other, you should definitely join the Discord community. We got 1,500 plus fantasy managers in there. Blake and I are in there all the time talking fantasy hockey. While you're here, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment really does help us out. But that's going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band They're There for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.